Welcome back to Mia Horror Stories. Tonight's tale, I was hired to moderate a forum that predicts missing persons is best experienced in the dark, which is why the screen will stay black. No distractions, no flashing images, just you, your imagination, and the story. So sit back, relax, and listen all the way to the end, if you dare. The first thing that felt wrong was the timestamp. Not the post itself, not the title. Just that small gray line of metadata under the username, the kind you usually ignore because it's always boring and always true. Posted 2 minutes ago. Except the system clock in the bottom right of my laptop said 3:12 a.m. and the forum banner at the top insisted the server time was 8:12 a.m. UTC, and the post claimed it had been edited yesterday. All of that can happen. Browsers glitch, VPNs hiccup, forums store edit times weird. I'd been awake too long, hunched over a sticky cafe table with my coat still on, because the heater in the place didn't work unless you sat directly under it. Still, the post wasn't about politics or crypto or whatever else people like to get banned for at 3 in the morning. It was a missing person report, not a link, not a screenshot, not a dramatic thread with a crying emoji, just a name, a city, a sentence that made my throat tighten in a way I didn't want to admit. Missing HOLLISKLINE, 22, female, Portland, OR. Last seen, 6:40 a.m. on SE Division near 34th. Blue rain jacket, bad left knee. Will try to walk it off anyway. I didn't know any Holly's Klein. I didn't live in Portland. I was in Boston, in a cafe that smelled like burnt espresso and lemon cleaner, watching the snow outside slide down the glass like the window was sweating. The detail about the knee, bad left knee, will try to walk it off, didn't read like a flyer. It read like someone who'd met her. I hovered over the remove button because that's what the job was. Remove posts that doxed, remove posts that incited, remove posts that harassed, remove posts that were unverifiable claims. There was a script in my head already, the one I'd practiced for the last 3 days since I got hired. We're not law enforcement. We can't host personal information. If you're concerned about someone's safety, contact local authorities. Only the post didn't include an address. No phone number, no photo, just enough to be human. My cursor trembled a little, which annoyed me. I wasn't the kind of person whose hands shook. I'd done content moderation before, video platforms, comment sections, the grim little corners where people put their worst selves because they thought nobody was watching. This was supposed to be easier. The cafe door opened with a tired bell and a gust of wet air. Someone stomped snow off their boots. A barista laughed too loudly at something behind the counter, the sound sharp and bright like tearing paper. I tried to click into the user profile. The page hung. I tried again. The icon spun. On the third click, the profile loaded, and my stomach did a small, reluctant dip. The username was Mod Welcome. It was supposed to be a system account, a placeholder we used for onboarding messages. Except the account history wasn't empty. There were 6 posts, all missing persons blurbs, scattered across different subforums, different states. One was in France in English, like someone couldn't decide which language to think in. And under each post, a comment thread, mostly skeptical, mostly cruel, mostly the kind of people who think human suffering is a puzzle box they deserve to solve. But there was always one comment pinned at the top by the same user. Thread allowed. Keep it factual. No vigilante behavior. That pinned comment was posted by me, or at least it carried my moderator badge. My stomach turned like it was searching for a position that didn't feel stupid. I checked the right-hand panel where your mod actions are listed. The log showed I had approved those threads. It listed my name. It listed the time. It listed an IP address I didn't recognize. I leaned back and the cheap chair complained. A tired squeak that sounded too much like someone trying to say something with their mouth shut. The cafe's overhead fan made a soft, uneven ticking as it rotated, like a small clock losing patience. A simple explanation landed first. Someone had my password. Then the more embarrassing one. I'd done it myself and forgotten. Neither one fit. I'd been hired 3 days ago. I'd barely had access. I'd spent most of those days learning which admin panel button did what, still asking stupid questions in the staff chat like a new kid trying not to spill their tray in the cafeteria. My phone buzzed on the table. I flinched because my body had apparently decided we were in a situation now, which I resented. A message from the staff Slack. Mara Ops, you online. I stared at her name for a second like it was a test. Then I typed with my thumbs, me. Yeah. Why? The little typing. Bubble appeared and vanished and appeared again, as if she was debating how honest to be. Mara Ops, don't do anything weird, RN. Just hold. That made it worse. Hold is what people say when a computer is about to restart. Hold is what they say when they're walking toward you with a look that means you're about to hear a sentence that changes your day. I glanced toward the counter. The barista, skinny kid with a beanie, probably college, was rinsing metal pitchers in the sink, water hissing. Nobody else in the cafe looked like they were worried about anything more than their commute. Outside, a plow crawled past, and the sound of its blade against slush was like a slow zipper. I messaged back, me. Someone's using my mod badge. There are approved threads I didn't approve. It felt ridiculous to even write. Mara didn't reply immediately. My eyes kept drifting back to the Portland post. The phrasing, the need detail, the time mismatch. On impulse, I opened a new tab and typed Holly's Klein Portland missing into a search bar. Nothing came up. No news. No social posts that looked official. No public alerts. Just an old LinkedIn result for a Holly's K in Oregon that might not even be her. That didn't prove anything. People go missing all the time without hitting the news. Police don't blast every report. Families don't always know how to get attention. And the internet is a giant sieve. Some names fall through. Still, the post was only 2 minutes old. My phone buzzed again. Mara Ops, okay, listen, we've seen this. Not just you, it's why I pinged. Do not change passwords yet. Don't log out. I need you in panel. I read it twice because it didn't make sense. If someone's in my account, changing the password is literally the first thing you do. That's not paranoia, that's basic hygiene. The fact she was telling me not to was like a doctor telling you not to wash your hands before surgery. I typed, "What do you mean we've seen this?" She finally sent a real answer. "Mara Ops, I'll call. Can you take a call?" I looked around the cafe again like I was making sure nobody was about to overhear my life falling apart. My private fear, the one I didn't like to examine too closely, rose up in its usual shape. I'm going to do something wrong, and it's going to matter. It was why I'd left my last job. Not because it was hard, because one day I approved a video that seemed harmless, and 3 days later, it was in a news story attached to tragedy. And my name wasn't in the article, but I knew where my fingerprints were. I'd promised myself I'd take smaller responsibility next time. And then I took this job because it paid well and came with a neat little title that sounded like I had a career. Me. Yeah. Her call came through almost instantly, like she'd been holding the button down. When I answered, her voice was lower than it sounded in text. She didn't bother with hello. "Okay," she said. "You're in the admin panel right now." Yeah, my voice sounded too normal, which made me feel like I was lying. "I'm looking at a thread in Portland. It says I pinned a comment, but I didn't." "Ma'am." She was moving. I could hear it, the soft scrape of a chair, the distant echo of a room with hard walls. "We've got 3 moderators with action logs they swear they didn't do. Different time zones, different devices. So someone, not exactly," she cut in, and there was a small pause, a hesitation she tried to hide by breathing out. "We thought it was account compromise, but the IPs don't line up. And the 2 file logs, it's not clean." My fingers tightened around the phone. "So what is it?" Mara didn't answer right away. In the cafe, the beanie kid called out an order name, oat latte for Jess. And a woman in a red scarf got up, her chair scraping the floor with a sound like a dull knife. Finally, Mara said, "You know what the site is, right?" "Yeah," I said, because I did. The forum was called Lamplight, one word, all caps, and it pretended to be a place where people posted patterns. The public pitch was harmless enough. Open source research, crowdsourced timelines, missing persons awareness. The internal pitch, the one that got me hired, had been different. We predict cases before they hit the media. We help families act faster. It was framed as civic-minded, like Neighborhood Watch with spreadsheets. I'd rolled my eyes at the marketing language. Still took the paycheck. Mara said, "The founding admin, Elliot, he insists the posts aren't random." "Of course he does," I said, sharper than I meant. "It's his whole brand." "Yeah," Mara agreed, surprising me. "But here's the thing. Some of these threads, they go up before there's any report, before a family even posts." I swallowed. "How would we know that?" "Because," she said, "we had one last week, Minneapolis. The name went up at 5:18 a.m. local time. At 11:40, a sister posted on Facebook asking for help. At 2:10 p.m., the police blotter showed it as a missing person report. I stared at the Portland Post again. The blue rain jacket, the knee. "It's coincidence," I said, because I needed it to be. Mara made a small sound that wasn't quite disagreement and wasn't quite agreement. "Maybe. But it's enough that Elliot's freaking out and wants mods to treat these threads like, I don't know, like fragile evidence. What does he want me to do?" "He wants you to leave it up," Mara said. "For now." I laughed once, a short, humorless sound. "Mara, I'm not hosting potentially identifying information about a person who might not even be missing yet." "It's not identifying," she said quickly. "It's a name and a city. That's public domain, basically. That's not how doxing works." "I know." Her voice softened, like she remembered I wasn't just a cursor. "Look, I'm not telling you this because I agree. I'm telling you because Elliot is going to come down hard on anyone who breaks the chain." Those were his words. "The chain," I repeated, and the phrase snagged in my mind like a burr. "So he believes the site is what, psychic?" "No," Mara snapped, then caught herself. "No supernatural stuff. He's obsessed with data. He thinks there's a leak somewhere. A system, he thinks. Someone is feeding the forum." My eyes went to the username again. "Mod welcome. Feeding it from where?" I asked. Mara hesitated. That's the part we're trying to figure out. There's a private subforum. You don't have access yet. I thought mods had access to everything. Not everything, she said, and the way she said it was telling, like she didn't love that fact either. Elliot keeps a section restricted. Only admins and senior researchers. He claims it's to protect sources. And I'm supposed to moderate a forum with secret sources, I said, feeling the stupid anger rise, clean and hot. That's great. I know, Mara said, and her voice was tired. Listen, I need you to do something, okay? But it's your call. I can't force you. I waited, my eyes on the post, my cursor hovering over remove, like a finger over a trigger I didn't want to pull. There's a user in that Portland thread, Mara said. They're about to comment. When they do, I need you to watch the metadata in the mod tools. Not just the post, the comment payload. I need a screenshot of the raw header. My mouth went dry. Why? Because that user has shown up in 3 of these threads, she said. And every time the header looks off, like it's coming from inside our network. I stared at the empty comment box under the Portland post, the refresh icon. What's the username? I asked. Mara exhaled. North Fence. The page flickered as if it had heard us. A new comment appeared, sliding into place, with that casual animation forums used to feel friendly, like they're doing you a favor. North Fence, wrong corner. She'll go east first. Then she'll stop answering. Don't call. Don't spook her. I didn't move for a full second because my brain had to decide which part to prioritize. The fact that it read like instruction, or the fact that it was delivered with the calm confidence of someone who'd already seen the ending. My cursor hovered over remove. If I deleted the thread, it would be gone. It would also be in my action logs forever, a clean, defensible decision. It might also be the wrong decision. If I left it up, I'd be doing what a stranger on the internet wanted, and what Elliot wanted, and what Mara, despite herself, was asking me to do, because she was scared enough to bend policy. My phone stayed pressed to my ear, warm from Mara's voice. I could hear her breathing, waiting. Outside, the plow turned the corner, and the blade scraped harder. A long metallic groan that made people in the cafe glance up without knowing why. Mara said quietly, "Your call." And that was the choice, right there, hanging in the air like a held note. Do I pull the thread and protect the forum from becoming a bulletin board for panic? Or do I keep it up long enough to see what it's really connected to? The comment sat there for 3 seconds before the replies started. Not outrage. Not confusion. Agreement. A user named MapCrawl replied, "East makes sense. Division slopes down." Another, Suture Theory, wrote, "If knee's bad, she'll avoid stairs. There's that ramp near the co-op." My pulse thudded in my ears, not dramatic, just insistent, like a finger tapping the table. "Mara," I said quietly into the phone. "They're building a map." "I know," she said. I could hear keyboard noise on her end now, fast and uneven. "Elliot's in the private channel already. Tell him to lock it." Silence. "Then he won't." Of course he wouldn't. On my screen, the thread refreshed again. Someone dropped a Google Maps link. Someone else posted a street view screenshot. The blue rain jacket detail was getting dissected like it was evidence in a trial. And still no confirmation that Holly's Klein was actually missing. "Okay," I said, forcing my voice to flatten out. "I'm pulling the raw header." I clicked into the mod tools and opened the comment payload for North Fence. The interface was ugly, gray on gray, full of fields most moderators never needed to see. I scrolled to the header block. User agent string. Standard, referrer. Internal thread link. IP address. I stopped. Mara, what? It's hours. A pause. Define hours. Same block as admin traffic. Same subnet. That's not possible, she said too fast. It says 172.31. I know what it says. Behind me, someone dropped a ceramic cup. It shattered sharp and loud, and a few people gasped. The barista swore under his breath. The smell of coffee bloomed thicker in the air, like something burnt. Mara, I said, softer now. If North Fence is posting from inside your network, that's not a leak. That's an internal account, she finished. Or someone spoofing. Or someone physically in the office. Her breathing changed, slower, controlled. The Lamplight office was in Chicago, she told me during onboarding. A rented floor in a mid-rise near the river. Mostly remote staff. A handful of in-person admins. Elliot liked having a core. You need to screen capture everything, she said. Don't trust logs to stay. I thought you said don't do anything weird. This isn't weird. This is documentation. The thread ticked upward, 10 comments. 15. Then my phone buzzed again. Not Slack. A news alert. I almost ignored it. I didn't want the outside world intruding right now. But I glanced. Portland police seek help locating missing woman last seen this morning. The timestamp, 3:21 a.m. EST, which meant 12:21 a.m. in Portland. Which meant no, I whispered. What? Mara snapped. The news just posted it. What news? I read it aloud, stumbling over the URL because my mouth felt dry. Portland police, seeking help locating Hollis Klein, 22. Last seen 6:40 a.m. near SE Division and 34th. Mara didn't speak for a long time. That's exactly what the post says, I added. Read the description. Blue rain jacket, I said. Family says she has a prior knee injury. In the cafe, the barista knelt to sweep up shards. The scraping sound was rhythmic, calm, methodical. On my screen, someone in the thread pasted the police link. The replies shifted tone immediately. Less puzzle, more urgency. And then worse, someone wrote, "See, told you Lamplight gets it first." I felt something twist low in my stomach. Not fear exactly. Recognition. This was how cult logic forms. You get one win, then you reinterpret the timeline to make it prophetic. Mara, I said, this is going to blow up. I know, you can't leave it up. I know, but Elliot will. Another pause. Yeah, she said. The problem wasn't abstract anymore. It wasn't about mysterious logs or internal IPs. It was about a real woman who was now officially missing, and a forum full of strangers who thought they were ahead of the story. Okay, I said slowly. Here's the time-sensitive part. If they start contacting people, friends, businesses, whoever, they contaminate the case. They interfere. They spook her if she's hiding. They tip someone off if she's not alone. I'm aware, Mara said, voice thin. And if one of them actually goes out there, she didn't answer, because we both knew it was possible. Lamplight had meetups. They called them field audits. Volunteers with high-vis vests and printed timelines. It was all framed as assistance. I checked the sidebar. There it was. A new post in Field Coordination Pacific Northwest. My chest tightened. I clicked. User, map crawl anyone in Portland able to canvas division corridor. We have last known vector. No contact. Just observe. 3 replies already. One user said they were 10 minutes away. Mara, I said, I see it. You have to shut down field coordination. I don't have that permission. Then escalate. I am escalating. The private fear, the one about making the wrong decision and watching it ripple, rose up again, ugly and insistent. I remembered the video from my last job, the comments saying it was fake, the approval stamp with my name, the way I'd told myself, it's not your responsibility what people do next. It hadn't felt true then. It didn't feel true now. Patch me into Elliot, I said a beat. He's not going to like that. I don't care. Another beat. Hold, the call shifted. A click, a new line. A man's voice came on, measured and warm in that deliberate way some people cultivate. Hello, Elliot, I said. Yes, and you are new moderator, Boston. Ah, yes, I saw your screenshots. He sounded almost pleased. Interesting anomaly. People are mobilizing in Portland, I said. You need to freeze the thread. No, he said immediately. The word was so simple it almost disarmed me. You can't have strangers canvassing an active missing person case, I said. You don't even know if they've coordinated with police. They haven't, he said calmly. We instruct them not to. That's not the same as stopping them. He exhaled, not impatient. Patient. Listen, he said. We are not vigilantes. We are pattern analysts. The community understands that. I glanced at the field coordination thread where someone had just posted a screenshot of a bus schedule. Understand a lot of things until adrenaline kicks in, I said. Mara was silent on the line now. I imagined her in that Chicago office, fluorescent lights humming, staring at a dashboard. Elliot continued, if we lock the thread now, we lose visibility. We lose data. We lose trust. This isn't about trust, I snapped. It's about a missing person who might be in danger. And if our data helps, he asked softly. That landed heavier than I expected. What data? I demanded. The post came from your own subnet. Yes, he said. No hesitation, my breath caught. You know about North Fence, I said. I do, and we are investigating. Is it an internal account? I can't discuss internal security matters with a junior moderator, he said, still maddeningly calm. But I can tell you this, the predictive posts are not guesses. I closed my eyes for a second, just long enough to reset. Are you getting tips from law enforcement? I asked. No. From families? No. Then from where? Silence. On the other line, I could hear the faint hum of an HVAC system, a distant door shutting. Finally, he said, that is precisely what we are trying to determine. I opened my eyes and looked at the Portland thread again. North Fence had posted another comment. Don't involve police in this thread. Let official channels do that. Focus on eastbound pedestrian paths. A few users pushed back. One wrote, are you saying she's not alone? North Fence didn't respond. My phone buzzed with a direct message through the forum's internal system. It was from a user I didn't recognize. User, Leela K22, I'm Holly's roommate. Who are you people and how do you know about her knee? I felt the floor tilt slightly, not physically, but enough. Mara, I said quietly. We have a roommate in the thread. Elliot inhaled sharply for the first time. Get her into a private channel, he said. No, I said immediately. Excuse me. We're not pulling a family member into a private forum with strangers analyzing her friend's movements. She reached out. She's panicking. She deserves information. What information? I shot back. We don't know anything. The roommate posted again publicly. This is sick. We filed the report less than an hour ago. Less than an hour, which meant the lamplight post had gone up before the report was even logged. The timeline locked into place like teeth in a gear. My heart started pounding harder now. Not dramatic, just fast. Elliot, I said, if someone inside your network posted this before the report, that means they had knowledge before the police. Yes, he said, which means either someone's monitoring emergency channels illegally or someone close to her is feeding you. Yes, he said again. And you're still leaving it up. Yes. The calmness in his voice wasn't cruelty. It was conviction. That scared me more. In the field coordination thread, someone wrote, "I'm heading to division now, just to look." A second user replied, "Me too." "Mara," I said, "they're physically going. I see it. We need to notify Portland PD." Elliot cut in, sharper now. "Absolutely not. They're about to interfere with an active search. If you contact law enforcement without authorization, you violate your NDA." I laughed, short and brittle. "You think I care about an NDA right now? I think you care about making another irreversible mistake," he said gently. And that hit, because he was right about one thing. I did care. I cared about not overreacting, not burning down something because it scared me, not repeating the pattern of seeing harm everywhere and acting on it too late or too early. On the public thread, the roommate wrote, "She was supposed to meet someone for coffee. We don't know who." North Fence replied almost instantly, "East, just that. East." The complication landed in the next refresh. A user posted a photo, not of Holly's, of a woman in a blue rain jacket walking along SE Division, timestamped from 10 minutes ago. The caption read, "Pretty sure this is her. She's limping." My throat tightened. If that was really Holly's, she wasn't missing in some abstract, procedural sense. She was walking somewhere, and now strangers on the internet were triangulating her path in real time. "Mara," I said, "this just became stalking." Elliot's voice lost its warmth. "We need that photo saved." "For what?" I demanded. "For verification." "For evidence," I said, "or for your data set." No one answered. On the field coordination thread, one of the users heading out posted, "Saw her. She turned east on 37th. My heart hammered so hard it felt like it might bruise something. I stood up abruptly, chair scraping loud against the cafe floor. A couple of people glanced over. "Mara," I said, "give me the Chicago office address." There was a long pause. "Why?" "Because if North Fence is posting from inside your subnet, and this is escalating in real time, I'm not doing this remotely." "You're in Boston," she said. "I know. That's a flight." "I know." Elliot's voice cut in, controlled but tight. "You will not come to the office unannounced." "Then shut it down," I said. Silence. On the thread, the roommate posted one last message. "She just texted me. She says people are following her." The cafe around me kept moving, espresso machine hissing, broom scraping, someone laughing at a joke I couldn't hear. On my screen, North Fence typed, "Too late." And that was the complication. Not supernatural, not mysterious, just human. Someone in Portland was now aware she was being tracked, and the people tracking her believed they were helping. The roommate's message stayed at the top of the thread for 12 seconds before it was buried. She just texted me. She says people are following her. Replies stacked under it, fast and jittery. "We're not following, just observing. Tell her to stay on division. Ask her if she crossed 39th yet." I felt my jaw tighten. "Mara," I said, voice low and steady, "I'm locking the field coordination subforum." "You can't," she said automatically. "I can. I have mod privileges there." "Elliot will. I don't care." I clicked into Field Coordination Pacific Northwest and hit temporarily restrict posting. The interface lagged for a split second, like it was thinking about whether to obey me. Then it froze. Not a crash, just a soft, infuriating gray overlay. I refreshed. Access denied. "What did you do?" Mara asked. "I didn't do anything. It kicked me." "That means Elliot. I know what it means." The trap tightened quietly. No alarms. No dramatic alerts. just a revoked permission mid-action. On the public thread, a new comment appeared from MapCrawl. "We're backing off. She's spooked." Then, seconds later, she cut through the alley behind the co-op. I pulled up Google Maps in another tab. SE Division, 34th, 37th, 39th. The New Seasons co-op sat between 40th and 41st. The alley behind it connected to Clinton Street, narrower, residential, lined with craftsman houses and low hedges. If she'd turned east from 34th, she would have passed 35th, 36th, 37th. A slight downhill grade. Bus stops every few blocks. If she was limping, she wouldn't move fast. "Mara," I said, forcing myself to think like a person, not a moderator. "How many Portland users do we have?" In that subforum, 4 active tonight. "And how many just posted?" 2 confirmed local IPs. And North Fence, silence. "Still internal," she said finally. "Meaning Chicago. Meaning VPN masked inside our Oz block," she said. "It could be remote. Or someone sitting at a desk in your office." The thought made something cold slide under my ribs. The first attempt to fix this, lock the coordination thread, had failed. The second attempt formed before I consciously decided on it. "Get me the user metadata for MapCrawl and the one who posted the photo," I said. "I can't just hand that over." "You said document everything." "I'm documenting." She hesitated. Then, "Fine, I'll screen share." A small window opened on my laptop with Mara's desktop. Her office looked dim behind her. A line of desks, empty chairs, a coat hanging off one. The overhead lights were too bright, the kind that hum faintly. She pulled up MapCrawl's profile. Portland IP, Comcast, device, iPhone, then the photo poster. Also Portland, also mobile. Real users, she said quietly. "And if they're really out there," I replied, "we're orchestrating this." She winced. On the thread, Leela posted again. She says she's near a church, red door. I zoomed out on the map. We're 3 churches within 4 blocks of division between 34th and 45th. One on 38th with a brick facade. One on 41st with a red painted door facing the street. Another on Clinton with stained glass. "Which church?" I muttered. North Fence responded within seconds. 41st. My throat felt tight. "Why 41st?" I whispered. Mara leaned closer to her screen. "How would they know that?" The misdirection came 2 minutes later. A new post dropped into the thread. She just fell. My chest jolted. I imagined concrete. I imagined someone's head hitting pavement. Leela replied in all caps. "What?" Then the next comment. "No, sorry, wrong person. Blue jacket, but not her. This one's older." I exhaled hard enough that the cafe barista glanced at me. My hands were shaking now, not dramatically, just small tremors that made the cursor drift. "That's it," I said. "I'm messaging the roommate privately." "You told Elliot you wouldn't." I didn't tell him that. I opened Leela's profile and clicked direct message. "Leela, this is a moderator. Please stop posting real-time location updates. It could put her at risk. Have you contacted Portland PD about being followed?" I hesitated before hitting send. My flaw, the one Elliot had sniffed out with that gentle comment about irreversible mistakes, pressed in. If I warned her, I'd be acknowledging the forum's role. If I stayed silent, I'd be complicit. I hit send. Seconds passed. Then her reply, "Who are you? Why did this get posted before we even filed the report?" That wasn't an answer. It was a question I couldn't solve. "Mara," I said, "we need to verify the timeline, exact minutes. When did the Portland thread go live?" She pulled up server logs. 0310:42 EST, she said, which is 0010:42 PST. And the police report, she searched. Public blotter shows 0021 PST. 11 minutes. The post went live 11 minutes before the official report timestamp. Call logs, I muttered. 911 call logs. We don't have those, but someone does. I felt something click into place. Not a solution, a direction. If someone inside your network is monitoring emergency dispatch feeds in real time like a scanner or a paid API, they'd know before the blotter updates. Mara's face tightened. That's not illegal. Not by itself. But pairing it with predictive commentary is ethically questionable, she said. Ethically questionable, I repeated, staring at the thread where people were mapping a missing woman's path like it was a scavenger hunt. On the public thread, Leela posted, she says there's a man in a gray hoodie who keeps turning when she turns. The cafe door opened again, wind slicing in. A man in a gray hoodie stepped inside, shaking snow from his sleeves. My heart slammed once, hard enough to hurt. He looked up, confused at my stare, then walked to the counter. My brain caught up a second later. Boston, not Portland, coincidence. I felt foolish and shaky and angry at myself for letting imagery bleed into reality. The hoodie guy ordered a drip coffee and scrolled his phone, oblivious. Explainable. Everything so far was explainable. That's what made it worse. Mara, I said, we need to contact Portland PD anonymously. Just tell them there are civilians possibly tailing her. If that comes back to us, it won't. You don't know that. No, I admitted, I don't. Silence stretched between us. Then she said quietly, there's another thing. What? She toggled to another window. It was the restricted subforum. She shouldn't have been showing me this. A thread titled, PNW Live Case Monitoring. My stomach dropped. Inside were time-stamped entries. 0008 PST female, 22, possible voluntary disappearance. Division corridor. 0009 PST left residence. Limp noted. 0010 PST thread live. I stared at the entries. They weren't user posts. They were system notes. Mara, I said slowly. Who writes those? She swallowed. They auto-populate from a script. What script? A webhook. From where? She didn't answer. Because she didn't know. The second attempt formed on its own. If it's a webhook, we can trace the endpoint, I said. Where it's pulling from. That's backend, she said. I don't have access. Who does? Elliot, get him. I can't just get him. Her jaw tightened, but she nodded. The call clicked again. Elliot's voice came back, faint irritation under the surface now. Yes, you have a webhook feeding the PNW live case thread, I said. What is it pulling from? I told you, internal security. This isn't security. This is real-time tracking. A pause. It pulls from publicly accessible data streams, he said carefully. Which ones? Emergency dispatch. Social signals. Keyword monitoring. So you are scraping 911 feeds, I said. We are aggregating legally available data and posting it before families are notified. That's not how it works. Then how does it work? Silence. On the public thread, Leela posted again. She says she's cutting through Laurelhurst Park. I froze. Laurelhurst Park was northeast of Division. She turned north at 39th or 41st and kept going. She could hit the park's southern edge. It was dark at midnight. Wide open fields, few streetlights. That's a bad idea, I muttered. Mara, I said urgently. If she's in Laurelhurst and strangers are trailing her based on our thread, I know. We have to shut it down. Elliot's voice came in sharp. If you shut it down, you blind the community. I don't care about the community, I snapped. I care about the girl in the park. And what if the data indicates she's not alone? He asked. The words hung there. What does that mean? I said slowly. He didn't answer directly. Our script flagged something at 0007 PST, he said instead. What? Keyword cluster. Gray hoodie, coffee, division. My mouth went dry. You're not just scraping dispatch, I said. You're scraping private messages. No, he said quickly. Public social feeds. But in real time. Yes. So if someone she was meeting posted something cryptic, your script flagged it. Possibly. And North Fence, silence again. In the background of Mara's screen share, I noticed something I hadn't before. A door at the far end of the Chicago office hallway. Closed, the light under it on. Mara, I said quietly. Is anyone else there tonight? She glanced over her shoulder. I thought I was alone. Is Elliot in the office? No, he's remote. The light under the door flickered slightly, like someone moving inside. Mara, I said, trying to keep my voice level. There's someone in that room. She stood up slowly, laptop in hand. The camera angle shifted, showing rows of empty desks. The hum of lights, the door at the end. She walked toward it. My heart thudded in my ears again, that same insistent tapping. Mara, Elliot said sharply. Sit down. Why? She asked. Because you're not authorized to access that room. That's not what I'm doing, she said. She reached the door, knocked once, no answer. The light flickered again. Mara, I said. She tried the handle, locked from the inside. She stepped back. On my screen, the public thread exploded. She's screaming. Someone call 911. She dropped her phone. Leela posted. She's not answering. My body went cold in a very practical way, like blood redirecting. Mara, I said, call Chicago PD. Why Chicago? Because if North Fence is internal, and someone is physically in that office feeding data or controlling the script, that's a leap, Elliot said sharply. And if it's not, I shot back. Mara's hand hovered near the door again. The point of no return arrived quietly in the form of a system notification. Admin privileges granted, North Fence. I stared at it. Mara, I said, voice barely above a whisper. North Fence just got admin. What? She breathed. On the public thread, the posts froze. Not deleted, locked by admin. A new banner appeared at the top, thread archived for safety review. Do not contact authorities without coordination. Elliot inhaled sharply on the line. I did not do that, he said. The trap snapped shut. Because whoever controlled North Fence now controlled the entire forum. And they were inside the system, and possibly inside the building with Mara. Retreat wasn't an option anymore. Not legally, not technically, not morally. The admin banner sat at the top of the forum like a lid snapping shut. Thread archived for safety review. Do not contact authorities without coordination. North Fence had control. Mara, I said, my voice flat with a kind of clarity that only comes after panic burns itself out. Pull the server access logs for the last 5 minutes. I can't, she said. Her voice sounded thin now, stretched. Admin level change locked me out of that pain. Elliot, I said, silence on the line. Elliot. Breath then, I've been demoted. The word didn't land at first. Demoted, I repeated. My credentials were just downgraded, he said. The warmth was gone from his voice now. There was a tremor he couldn't quite hide. North Fence now has full administrative override. The trap had a shape now. Not mysterious, not paranormal, a hostile internal takeover. Okay, I said, okay, think, Mara, where's the physical server? It's not here, she said quickly. Cloud hosted. Oz. Good, I said, so whoever's in that room can't physically yank cables. The Chicago office camera feed jittered slightly as she shifted her laptop. The locked door at the end of the hallway glowed faintly at the edges. Elliot, I said, is there a backdoor account? Emergency, a beat. Yes, he said reluctantly. Use it. I can't. Why not? Because it requires physical token authentication. In the office. I closed my eyes for half a second. Where? In that room, he said. Mara didn't move. On the public forum, North Fence posted a new announcement across the site. Active case intervention. Do not engage outside designated channels. The tone had changed. No more predictive hints. No more cryptic guidance. Control. On the archived Portland thread, a final comment appeared before it locked fully. She's in the park bathroom. Then nothing. My heart thudded hard enough to make my vision pulse. Laurelhurst Park, I said. There's a bathroom building near the southeast corner. Brick. Single story. How do you know that? Mara asked. I'm looking at it. Google Street View filled my screen. The bathroom sat near S.E. Oak Street, just north of the park's lower field. A small structure, flat roof, graffiti near the side entrance. If she'd cut through from Division and 41st, she could have crossed Burnside and entered the park from the southwest corner. The path would take her past the duck pond, then toward that building. She texted that, I asked. No, Mara said. That was a forum user. Which one? Mapcrawl, the same user who'd initiated canvassing. Get me his full metadata, I said. I can't, she whispered. Then screenshot what you can. Behind her, the light under the door flickered again. Mara, I said, you have to open that door. I'm not authorized. You're not authorized to let someone hijack your platform either. Elliot cut in sharp. Do not attempt entry. Call building security. Is there security on site? I asked. Not overnight, Mara said. Then call 911. Chicago PD. Silence. On the archived Portland thread, a new system update appeared. Live feed paused. Live feed, I said. Elliot swore softly. What live feed? I demanded. It's experimental, he said. Define experimental. We were beta testing integration with public CCTV streams, he said quickly. Traffic cams, park cams. Is there a camera in Laurelhurst Park? I asked. Yes, he said, near Oak. My stomach dropped. You were watching her, I said. It's public footage, he insisted. And who has access to that integration? Silence. Mara, I said quietly. That door, she nodded once. The laptop camera bounced as she set it down on a desk facing the hallway. The view tilted slightly upward, framing the locked door at the end. She walked forward. Each step echoed faintly on the polished floor. Mara, Elliot said again, voice strained. Do not escalate this. She didn't answer. Reached the door and knocked harder this time. Hello, she called. This is operations. We need to access the security token. No response. The handle rattled slightly. Locked. She stepped back, breathing faster now. I'm calling Chicago PD, she said. Wait, Elliot said quickly. Give me 60 seconds. For what? For North Fence. What does that mean? Silence again. On my screen, the forum dashboard flickered. A new message appeared in my direct inbox from North Fence. You're overreacting. My mouth went dry. She's not being harmed. I typed before I could stop myself. Where is she? 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Bathroom, alone, crying. My chest tightened, and the gray hoodie, a pause. Not relevant. I felt something click into place. Mara, I said slowly. Pull the keyword cluster for gray hoodie. She scrambled back to her laptop. It was from Twitter, she said after a second. Public post. A guy complaining about cold weather on Division. Gray hoodie, coffee spill. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. So the hoodie was noise, I said. Yes. The misdirection untangled itself. The script had flagged an unrelated tweet and fed it into the pattern. The forum users had filled in the rest. She thought she was being followed because people were actually following her, I said. And the hoodie guy, Mara asked. Probably just a guy in a hoodie. In Portland, Leela's profile showed online, then offline, then online again. I typed her. Call 911 now. Tell them she's in Laurelhurst Park bathroom. Do not mention the forum. No reply. Elliot, I said, you said you had 60 seconds. I'm logging in through the emergency account, he said. It requires the physical token. In that room, Mara said, yes. She stared at the door. Then she did something small and practical. She grabbed a metal chair from a nearby desk. Mara, Elliot said sharply. She didn't hesitate. She swung the chair into the door handle. The first hit clanged loud, metal on metal. The echo shot down the hallway. The second hit dented the frame. The third cracked something. On the fourth, the handle snapped loose and the door burst inward. The laptop camera caught the movement in jerks. Inside the room was a single desk, a monitor, a small server rack humming softly, and a man, mid-30s, pale, wearing headphones. He looked up, startled, like someone interrupted during a spreadsheet. What the hell? He said. Mara, I breathed. Who are you? She demanded. He yanked the headphones off. I work here, he stammered. Name, she snapped. Jason, contract data engineer. Elliot inhaled sharply on the line. Jason doesn't have admin access, he said. Jason's eyes flicked to the laptop camera. Oh, he said softly. The server rack hummed louder than it should have, or maybe it was just my nerves. Mara, I said, the token. She spotted it on the desk, a small hardware key plugged into a USB port. She moved toward it. Jason stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. Don't, he said. Move, she said. He hesitated. Then he lunged. The motion was clumsy, panicked, not cinematic. His shoulder clipped her arm. The laptop camera swung sideways, showing ceiling tiles and fluorescent lights. There was a thud, a sharp intake of breath. Mara, I shouted. The camera stabilized slightly, now angled low. Jason was on the floor, clutching his face. Mara was on her knees, breathing hard, one hand pressed to her side. I'm fine, she gasped. He slipped. Jason groaned. Blood seeped between his fingers. Call 911, I said. I am, Elliot said. Mara crawled forward and yanked the hardware token free. The server monitor flickered. On my screen, the forum dashboard blinked. Admin privileges revoked. North Fence. Emergency admin logged in. Elliot V. The archived thread unlocked momentarily, then was fully deleted. Not hidden, deleted. The entire PNW live case monitoring subforum vanished from the sidebar. Elliot, I said, don't. We cannot leave that trail, he said. That's evidence. Of what? Of what indeed? On my phone, a news alert buzzed. Portland police locate missing woman safe in Laurelhurst Park. I closed my eyes. Relief didn't come clean. It came tangled. Safe, I said quietly. Mara sat back against the wall, one hand still at her side. Her breathing was shallow. Jason lay on the floor, groaning, blood pooling from his nose. Chicago PD sirens wailed faintly in the background now, growing louder. Why? I asked, staring at Jason through the skewed camera. He looked up at the laptop, eyes wide. It works, he said thickly. The model works. What model? I demanded. The prediction engine, he said. It scrapes, clusters, weights probability. It flags anomalies before official reports. And then, I said, and then we post, he whispered. You were North Fence, I said. He nodded once. I didn't hurt her, he said quickly. I never touched them. I just watched the patterns. Mara's laugh was short and broken. You gave yourself admin, she said. I needed control, he muttered. You were going to shut it down. Sirens filled the Chicago audio feed now. In Portland, I imagined officers sweeping flashlights across the park, finding Hollies in the bathroom, shaking, phone dead. Saved, but not untouched. In Chicago, Mara winced as she tried to stand. Stay down, I said. I'm fine, she insisted, though her hand trembled. Jason was cuffed minutes later, Chicago PD moving briskly through the frame. They didn't understand the forum. Not yet. They saw an assault, a break-in, a bleeding man. Elliot stayed on the line, breathing steady again. We will cooperate, he said. Will we? I asked. He didn't answer. The cafe around me felt unreal now. Too warm, too loud. The gray hoodie guy in Boston sipped his coffee, oblivious to the fact that his clothing had briefly become part of a predictive engine's hallucination. My hands were still shaking. Holly's was alive, but she had been hunted not by a kidnapper, not by something supernatural, by a system, and by people who believed in it. The central threat wasn't a single man in a locked room. It was the belief that prediction equals permission. Jason was led out of the Chicago office, blood drying dark on his face. Mara stayed seated on the floor until paramedics arrived. She waved them off at first, then flinched when they touched her side. A rib, maybe. Nothing fatal, nothing clean either. On my screen, the lamplight homepage refreshed to a sterile welcome page. No Portland thread. No field coordination. Just a banner, maintenance mode. It felt like a lie, because nothing about this felt maintained. It felt cracked, and I knew in the quiet after the sirens faded and the cafe opened fully to morning commuters that I would never be able to look at a timestamp the same way again. By 6:15 a.m., the cafe was full, commuters, wet boots, the espresso machine working without pause, the ordinary machinery of morning. I was still in the same chair. My phone battery was at 12%. My coffee had gone cold hours ago. My hands had finally stopped shaking, but they felt like they belonged to someone who had run a long way and only just realized it. Mara texted first. Ribs cracked. Not broken. I'm okay. Then, a minute later, Jason in custody. Assault plus unauthorized access. Elliot talking to lawyers. That was how it always ended up. Lawyers. Statements. Controlled language. In Portland, Hollies had been found in the Laurelhurst Park bathroom at 1:14 a.m. local time. A park ranger responding to the 911 call had knocked first, announced himself, then waited while she unlocked the door. She had a scraped palm from falling on the wet tile inside. No head injury. No abduction. She'd run because she thought she was being followed, which she was. 2 lamplight users admitted to police they had been observing from a distance. They insisted they never touched her, never spoke to her. They believed they were helping. They had screenshots to prove their concern. The police confiscated their phones anyway. The phrase online interference showed up in one of the early reports. Not criminal, not yet, just interference. By 7:00 a.m., a short article appeared on a Portland news site. Missing woman found safe after online forum sparks confusion. The article didn't name Lamplight. It called it an internet discussion board. It described real-time speculation and crowdsourced tracking. It quoted Holly's roommate, Leela. She was scared. She thought something bad was about to happen. It was, but it could have been. That line stuck. It was, but it could have been. I closed my laptop and finally stood up. My legs felt stiff, like I'd been bracing against something invisible. Outside, Boston looked the same as it had the night before. Snow piled at the edges of the sidewalk. Delivery trucks double parked. A man arguing on his phone about an invoice. Nothing in the air said a woman in Oregon was chased by strangers who believed in a prediction engine. The world didn't shift for almost mistakes. It only shifts for outcomes. By mid-morning, Lamplight's homepage was still in maintenance mode. Sent a company-wide email at 9:03 a.m. Subject: temporary suspension of live case monitoring. He called it a precautionary pause while we conduct an internal review. He described Jason as a contractor who exceeded authorized scope. He did not mention the webhook. He did not mention the predictive engine. He did not mention that the thread went live 11 minutes before the police report. He thanked the moderation team for quick action under pressure. Read that line 3 times. Quick action under pressure. I had tried to lock a thread and lost access. I had sent one message to a roommate. I had not called Portland PD myself. Quick action felt generous. Mara called around noon. She sounded tired, medicated maybe. Slower. They're charging him, she said. Unauthorized access assault. There's talk of computer misuse statutes. And the data scraping, I asked. That's murkier, she said. Emergency dispatch feeds are technically public. Twitter's public. Traffic cams are public. And combining them, I asked. She was quiet. There's no law against being creepy with public data, she said finally. That sat heavy. What about the deleted subforum? I asked. Gone, she said. Elliot purged it before the police took the server snapshot. Did you tell them about it? I told them there was a beta feature, she said. I didn't have proof of the rest. I did. On my laptop, in a folder labeled Screenshots 310, were the raw headers, the internal subnet, the PNW live case monitoring entries. I hadn't told her I saved them. I need to ask you something, she said. Okay, are you staying? The question felt too big for the sidewalk in front of me. I don't know, I said honestly. If you leave, she said, Elliot keeps shaping the narrative. And if I stay, you're complicit in whatever comes next. There it was, the shape of it. Complicity wasn't loud. It was a series of small permissions. I watched a woman push a stroller through slush, careful with each step. I'll let you know, I said. In Portland, Holly's gave a brief statement to police. She had gone out to meet someone she'd been messaging for 2 weeks. A coffee date. The man had suggested a cafe near Division. She arrived early. He didn't show. While she waited, she received a text from Leela. Why are people online saying you're missing? She laughed at first. Then she opened the link. Her name, her jacket, her knee. She left the cafe immediately. She saw 2 people across the street looking at their phones, glancing up at her. She turned east. When they turned east, she panicked. In the park, she saw a man in a gray hoodie near the duck pond, staring at his screen. She ran. She slipped in the bathroom, scraped her palm, locked herself in a stall, and texted Leela with shaking hands. By the time the ranger knocked, she was convinced something terrible was about to happen. Nothing did, but her body didn't know that yet. 2 days later, she posted on her own social media, "I'm okay. Please stop speculating. I didn't consent to being tracked." The comments were split between sympathy and defensiveness. We were trying to help. That phrase again, trying to help. Jason's arraignment was uneventful. He appeared on a local Chicago feed, pale, nose bruised, eyes unfocused. He wore a button-down shirt like he was attending a conference. He pleaded not guilty to assault. The computer misuse charges were under review. In a brief statement to his attorney, he said, "The model identifies risk earlier than institutions do." He didn't mention Holly's by name. He didn't mention the bathroom. He talked about probability curves and anomaly detection. I watched the clip once. Then I closed it, because he wasn't wrong about one thing. The model did identify her before the official report. It just didn't know what to do with that knowledge, and neither did the people who believed in it. Elliot requested a call that Friday. I took it at home this time, not in public. His face filled my laptop screen, well-lit, composed. "We are restructuring," he said, meaning no more live case threads, no more field coordination. "For now," I asked. He paused. "We need to regain trust." "With who?" I said. "The community." I almost laughed. "What about Holly's?" I asked. "She's safe," he said. That was his metric, safe, as if the night hadn't left a mark. "I have screenshots," I said quietly. He didn't blink. "I assumed you did, and I trust your judgment," he said. "You prevented escalation." That wasn't entirely true. Mara prevented escalation. A cracked rib prevented escalation. A hardware token prevented escalation. "And if I share them?" I asked. "With who?" he said calmly. "Journalists, police." He folded his hands. "Be careful," he said. "Context matters." It wasn't a threat. It was a reminder. Context can be arranged. I closed the laptop without answering. By the following week, Lamplight was back online. No Portland thread. No mention of Laurelhurst. A new mission statement at the top. "We are committed to responsible analysis and community safety." The word predict was gone, replaced with analyze. Language shifting to cover a bruise. I logged in once, out of habit. My moderator badge was still there. No pending cases. No active threads. Just archived discussions about patterns in bus schedules and seasonal trends in voluntary disappearances. It looked harmless, almost academic. I hovered over the log out button. My inbox pinged from an unfamiliar username. User, North Fence 2 models improve. That was all. No IP visible from the surface view. No admin banner, just a message. I didn't open the header. I didn't reply. I logged out. Outside my apartment window, traffic moved steadily. A siren wailed in the distance, then faded. The world kept generating data. People kept walking east for reasons that had nothing to do with prediction engines. I still have the screenshots. They sit on an external drive in a drawer with old cables and warranty cards. Some nights, I take it out and plug it in, just to make sure the files are still there. They are, time-stamped, precise, 11 minutes early. Holly's is back at work, according to her public profile. She posted a photo of her cat yesterday. No mention of the park. Mara sends occasional texts. Her rib healed crooked, she says. It aches when it rains. Jason's case is still pending. Elliot posts think pieces about ethical AI. And sometimes, when I check the news and see a missing person alert pop up before it trends anywhere else, I feel a small, unwanted flicker of curiosity. Not belief, not anymore. Just the awareness that somewhere, someone is watching the patterns and deciding what to do with them. That's tonight's story. If it gives you chills, make sure to like, subscribe to Mia Horror Stories, and tap the bell so you never miss what's coming next. Hey everyone, this is Mia Horror Stories, and the title of today's horror story is I Work Night Shift at a Cemetery. Someone keeps ringing the bell. For your comfort, the screen will stay black throughout the video, so you can relax without strain and just focus on the story. Make sure you stick around until the end. Sometimes the last few moments are the ones that stay with you the longest. The bell rang once. Not the chapel bell. Our little place didn't have a chapel. This was the old service bell mounted under the eave of the maintenance shed. The one you de-ring if you needed tools checked out, or you were trying to get the grounds crew's attention back when there was a grounds crew at night. It had a pull rope that hung down almost to shoulder height, frayed at the end, with a cheap knot someone had tied who didn't know knots. We don't ring it anymore. There's no one to ring it for. Still, the bell rang. One clean, uncomplicated note that traveled across the wet grass and bounced off the marble and granite like it belonged. I stopped mid-step, my flashlight beam wobbling over a row of low markers. The beam caught the sheen of water on polished stone, then swung onto a pale tree trunk, the bark shining like bone in the mist. The air smelled like mulch and cold iron. Somewhere further down the hill, traffic on the state road made that steady hush, like the world refusing to pause just because I worked where people stopped. Then the bell didn't ring again. I waited for the explanation to arrive on its own. A gust, maybe. A raccoon. A kid on a dare. The rope shouldn't move without someone tugging it. It hung sheltered under the shed's overhang. Rain couldn't hit it directly. Wind couldn't really get a grip, not unless it was coming in sideways, and even then the rope would sway, not pull. The bell would chatter or rattle. That had happened once during a storm last fall. It didn't sound like this. This had sounded like a hand. I walked again, slower. My boots made a quiet suction noise in the grass. You learn to keep your eyes down in a cemetery at night, not because of ghosts, because of holes. Rabbits and groundhogs love graveyards. I'd stepped into a burrow my second week on the job, twisted my ankle, and had to limp back to the office with my pride split like cheap wood. I'm Evan Mercer, 34, male, night security at Winding Hollow Memorial Park outside Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's what my badge said. Security sounded like something out of a corporate brochure. Mostly I was a set of eyes, a person with a keyring, and a voice that could tell someone to leave. The bell was new on my mental checklist. My first month, I'd made a list of things that were normal and things that weren't. Lights on in the mausoleum after hours, usually a family that ran late, occasionally a contractor who forgot what time it was, once a teenager couple who looked like they were auditioning for a bad movie. Flicker of a headlight through the trees, drivers turning around on the loop road, a dog barking out on the far side by section 14, the neighbor's shepherd, a thump from the dumpster area, raccoon. The list had saved me from spooking myself over dumb stuff. It also meant when something didn't fit, It stood out like a broken tooth. I clicked my radio twice out of habit, realized the thing was on my belt, but not turned up. I turned it down earlier because the office Wi-Fi was acting up and the camera system kept sending pings, and the radio would squawk with every error like it was personally offended. I turned it up now, just a notch. Static. Then the dispatcher's bored voice, tinny and far. Copy county. Unit 12 en route. Not for me. Different channel bleed. Great. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I fished it out and saw a text from my supervisor. Mara, any issues? Camera's still lagging. I stared at the message, thumb hovering. Mara didn't like drama. She liked tidy summaries and problems that had already been half solved. I typed, all quiet, system still slow. Doing rounds. Lying, sort of. The bell had rung, but I didn't want to be the guy who sent bell rang at 2:13 a.m. like a Victorian child. I slid my phone away, kept moving toward the service road that cut behind the maintenance shed. If it had been a kid, they'd be heading back toward the fence line near the old stone wall. If it had been an animal, it would be gone. If it had been wind, it wasn't wind. As I walked, the flashlight beam jumped over the names on the stones without me reading them. You can't read them all. If you do, you get stuck. Not emotionally, even just practically, like your brain can't help but start making tiny stories, and suddenly you're late finishing your round. I took this job after my divorce because nights were easier than days. Days had sunlight that made you feel like you were wasting something. Nights were just hours to fill. Also, night shift meant fewer people to talk to, and fewer people asking how I was doing like they expected a meaningful answer. My private flaw, if you want to call it, that was how hard I worked to look unbothered. I could stand in front of a grieving family and speak softly and steady, then go into the office and wash my hands twice because I didn't want anyone's sorrow on my skin. I could tell a teenager to get out of the cemetery with a calm voice while my heart pounded like it was trying to escape a trap. I didn't like feeling watched, didn't like being surprised. I'd had enough of that in my marriage, the constant sense of stepping into rooms that had already decided who I was. The maintenance shed came into view through the thin trees, a squat building with green paint that had faded to the color of old algae. The bell hung where it always had, little brass dome, dull from years of fingerprints and weather, the rope dangling straight down. It was perfectly still. I stood there longer than I meant to, watching the rope, waiting for it to sway on its own, just to give me the relief of an explanation. Nothing. The shed door was shut. The padlock glinted in my flashlight beam. A small sign on the wall read, "Authorized personnel only." Someone had added, in black marker, "No trespassing," in a handwriting that looked angry. I swung my flashlight around the ground. Wet leaves, gravel, a few cigarette butts near the edge of the service road, where people sometimes parked to make phone calls. A crushed energy drink can. No footprints, but the soil was too hard in places and too mushy in others to tell. There were tracks, sure, thin lines where something had moved, but were they mine from earlier? A raccoon S. Someone else S. In the flashlight glare, everything looked like evidence if you stared at it long enough. "Okay," I said out loud, because sometimes saying a word snaps you back into the practical. "Okay." I walked around the corner of the shed, shining my light along the wall. There was the narrow gap between the shed and the chain link fence. No one liked that gap. During the day, was where spiders lived and where the landscapers shoved broken rakes. At night, it was where your imagination went to work. The gap was empty. When I came back around, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. Unknown number. My skin didn't prickle, it just tightened. Unknown numbers at 2 a.m. belonged to hospitals, cops, or people who had made a mistake. I answered. Hello, a pause. Then a voice, male, maybe late 20s or early 30s, breathy like he'd been running or trying not to be heard. Is this cemetery security? I shifted my stance so I could see down the service road and the main loop at the same time. My hand found the small canister of pepper spray on my belt, not because I planned to use it, but because the act of touching it made me feel less like a sitting target. Yes, I said, this is Winding Hollow. Who is this? Another pause. I could hear wind on his end, or maybe he was outside near a road. I heard a faint thump like a car door closing far away. I'm not supposed to be here, he said. There are a lot of ways to say that. Some people say it like an apology. Some people say it like a confession. He sounded like he wanted me to solve it for him. Where are you? I asked, keeping my voice steady and normal, the way you talk to someone who's teetering. Are you on the grounds right now? He took a breath that hitched in the middle. I just need to know if anyone is, if anyone's coming. I looked at the bell again, hanging there like an accusation. Sir, I said, if you're on the property, you need to leave. The gates. I can't. The word came out harsh, like it hurt him to say it. Then he softened again, and I heard something in the background, a thin metallic sound, distant, like a chain brushing against a pole. My stomach did a small, unpleasant drop. I didn't want to interpret that sound. I didn't want my brain to decide it was anything. It could be a keychain. It could be nothing. What's your name? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. When he did, he said, Cal. Just Cal, like he'd given it before in situations where names were dangerous. Cal, I said, I'm the only one here right now. What do you need? He exhaled, the sound close to the phone. Someone keeps ringing the bell. For a second, I didn't speak, because I didn't want to confirm it. The second you confirm something, it becomes real in a way that has consequences. You have to act differently. I heard it, I said finally. Once. That's why I'm out here. Not once, Cal whispered. It's been happening. Where are you? I asked again, sharper this time. Tell me where you are. Another faint metal sound on his end, then very softly by the shed. My head turned without me deciding to. The rope hung motionless. The little brass bell caught my flashlight beam and flared pale. I'm at the shed, I said, and I hated how controlled my voice sounded, like I was trying to convince myself. I don't see anyone. I'm not, he swallowed. I'm not at the shed. I'm by it. That could mean the gap. That could mean behind it. That could mean 10 yards into the trees where the flashlight didn't reach unless you aimed right. I stepped back so the beam washed wider, catching the fence line, the ground, the corner of the building. Nothing. No movement, no silhouette, no cough, no rustle of leaves. Cal, I said, I need you to make yourself visible. Step into the light. Put your hands where I can see them. He didn't. I heard him breathing. Then, from above me, the bell rang again. This time it wasn't a clean single note. It was 2 quick rings, like someone had pulled and let go, impatient. The rope swung. I watched it. It swung like a hand had yanked it and released. Left, then right, then it slowed, the frayed end dancing. My body went cold in a very practical way, not horror movie cold, Just that sudden blood shift you get when your brain tells your muscles, move. I took one step back, then another, putting space between me and the shed without taking my eyes off the rope. "Cal," I said low, "are you doing that?" "No," he said, and he sounded like he meant it. "No, I'm not touching it. I can't even. Why are you here?" I asked. A long pause, and in that pause I heard something else on my end, the soft crunch of gravel somewhere beyond the fence line. Not loud, not close, but there. My flashlight beam swung to the main loop road. Empty. The cemetery at night has this way of making distance hard to judge. Shapes look like they're moving when they're not. Static shadows feel like they're leaning. "Evan," Mara's voice suddenly snapped in through my radio, as if she'd been listening the whole time. "Evan, you there?" My thumb hit the talk button automatically. "Yeah, what's going on?" she asked. No greeting, no softness. Her tone had shifted into that managerial calm that meant she was already making notes in her head. I glanced at my phone. Cal was still on the line, silent. "Nothing," I said to Mara, then hated myself for saying it even as I said it. I heard the bell, twice now. I'm checking it. Silence on the radio. Then, the bell doesn't ring by itself. "I know. Do you see anyone?" "No." "Are the cameras?" She cut herself off, and I could hear clicking in the background like she was trying to bring up the feed. "Cameras are frozen again. Great. Evan, do not go playing hero." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because she'd said the exact thing my ex used to say when I tried to fix something around the house and made it worse. "Someone called me," I said, choosing truth now because it was easier than holding the lie. "A guy. He says someone keeps ringing it." "What guy?" Mara's voice had a thin edge now. I looked at the shed, at the swinging rope settling back toward stillness. "Name's Cal," I said. "He says he's by the shed." Mara swore under her breath, quiet but clear. Okay. Listen, you have a choice. You can lock yourself in the office and call county, or you can stay where you are and keep eyes on it until a unit rolls by. But you do not go into the trees alone. You hear me? On my phone, Cal whispered, barely there. "Please don't leave." 2 voices, 2 demands, 2 directions. My flashlight beam trembled slightly as I held it on the shed. My heart was beating hard enough that I could feel it in my throat. The damp night air tasted like pennies. Mara was waiting for my answer. Cal was waiting for me to move. And somewhere out on the loop road, or beyond it, there had been that soft crunch on gravel, like someone shifting their weight. I stood there in the wet grass, staring at the bell that wasn't supposed to ring, and had to decide which choice would keep me safest, and which one would keep someone else from getting hurt. The bell didn't stop after that. It rang once, then again, a half-second later, sharp and impatient. Hope jerked sideways in the beam of my flashlight like it was being tested for strength. "Evan," Mara said through the radio, her voice thin and tight now. "Talk to me." "I see it moving," I said. My throat felt dry. "The rope. It's not wind." On my phone, Cal made a sound that wasn't quite a word. It was closer to a choked breath. "I told you," he said. "It's been like that." "How long?" I asked. "Since," he hesitated. "Since I got here." "And when was that?" "Like 40 minutes ago." "Maybe an hour, 40 minutes." That meant someone had been ringing the bell on and off for nearly an hour while I was in the office trying to reset cameras and pretending the night was routine. "Why didn't you call sooner?" I asked. "I didn't have the number." "That's not an answer." "I didn't want to call 911, he snapped, and for the first time, there was something like anger in his voice. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I just needed to be here. People always always need to be in cemeteries at night. Closure, apology, self-punishment, sometimes drugs, sometimes to meet someone who doesn't show. Cal, I said, step into the light. I can't, he said again. The rope went still. That was worse. When something moves, you can react to it. When it stops, it means a decision's been made. I scanned the ground again, widening the arc of the beam. There, near the edge of the gravel service road, fresh scuff marks. Not animal tracks. Wider. The kind you get from sneakers pivoting. Are you alone? I asked him. Silence. Cal, I thought I was. A small muscle in my jaw ticked. What does that mean? I came in through the gap in the fence, he said, words tumbling now like he was relieved to finally say them. The one by the old stone wall. I parked my car out on Larkspur Road and walked. I just wanted to sit by my brother's grave. That's all. Section 16. Near the cedar tree. Section 16 was on the far side of the property, down the slope, and past the older markers where the ground dipped and pooled when it rained. The cedar tree was crooked and half dead. Lightning struck a few years back. That's not by the shed, I said. I know. I heard the bell from there. It's loud at night. It echoes. He wasn't wrong. The acoustics were strange after dark. Sound carried in uneven waves. I thought it was you, he continued. Like a worker or something. But then it kept happening. I started walking back this way to see. And every time I got close, it would stop. I felt something shift inside me at that. Not fear, recognition, the sense of being watched. Why not just leave? Mara cut in over the radio. She'd been listening the whole time. If he's trespassing, tell him to leave and call it in. I can hear you, Cal said sharply, phone still at my ear. I'm not trying to cause trouble. Then leave, Mara said, no patience in her tone. I tried. That landed wrong. Tried how? I asked. I went back toward the fence, he said. My car is out there. But he stopped. But what? There's a truck. The word hung there. What kind of truck? I asked. I don't know. Dark. Parked crooked on the shoulder, engine off. No lights. That's not illegal, Mara said, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. It wasn't there when I came in, Cal said. And when I got close, I heard someone inside. I thought about the crunch of gravel I'd heard. About the scuff marks. About the bell ringing, stopping, ringing again. Did you see anyone? I asked. No, just movement, like someone shifting in the seat. You sure it wasn't just you spooking yourself? Mara asked. Cal's laugh was brittle. I don't scare easy. The bell rang again. This time it wasn't near us. It was distant, fainter. A warped echo from further down the property. I turned slowly, flashlight sweeping toward section 14, then beyond. The sound had come from the other direction. It's not possible, I muttered. There's only one bell, Mara said. I know. Unless someone was mimicking it. Metal on metal, a pipe, a wrench. Cal, I said, where are you right now? Still near the shed, in the trees, I can see you. That did it. My skin prickled along my arms. Describe me, I said quietly. You've got a gray jacket, he said without hesitation. Flashlight in your right hand. You keep turning like you're trying to see behind yourself. He wasn't wrong. Why don't I see you? I asked. I'm farther back, he said, behind the row of older stones. There's a broken angel statue near me. There was. Its wing had snapped off in a freeze-thaw cycle years ago. He was there. Okay, I said, forcing air into my lungs. Stay where you are. That's what I've been doing. The radio crackled. Evan, Mara said, voice tight. County's 10 minutes out. Maybe 15. You do not engage anyone. You keep distance. 10 to 15 minutes was a long time in the dark, with someone possibly sitting in a truck watching the exit. Cal, I said, listen carefully. I need you to tell me about your brother. What? Your brother? Why you're here? A beat. His name was Lucas, he said finally. 22. Overdose. Last year. His voice flattened out when he said it, like he'd practiced the sentence. I come sometimes, he added. Not during the day. Too many people. I understood that. The desire for privacy and grief. The way public sorrow felt performative. Did anyone know you were coming tonight? I asked. No. Did you tell anyone recently you've been coming here at night? No. You sure? I don't advertise it. The bell rang again. Close. The rope snapped hard enough this time that I heard the wood bracket creak. I flinched despite myself. Okay, I said, my mind moving faster now. This isn't random. What do you mean? Cal whispered. I mean someone is timing it. Timing it how? Move, I said. When I move. There was silence on the line. Then, softly, you think someone's messing with us? I didn't answer directly. Cal, how well do you know your brother's friends? Why, just answer. Not well, he admitted. He had people I didn't like. Guys who hung around the house sometimes. I didn't know their names. Any of them know where he's buried. He had the obituary on Facebook, Cal said. Anyone could know. Mara cut in again. Evan, what are you thinking? I'm thinking, I said slowly, that if someone wanted to scare someone who comes here alone at night, this would be a good way to do it. Scare him for what? She asked. I didn't want to say it. Robbery, assault, a trap, because that would mean I was standing in it too. A faint engine sound drifted over the fence line. All three of us heard it. Even through the phone, Cal inhaled sharply. That's it, he whispered. That's the truck. I turned off my flashlight without thinking. Dark swallowed everything. Evan, Mara barked. Lights make me a target, I said quietly. The engine idled low, uneven, not revving, just sitting. I moved sideways, putting the shed between me and the road as much as I could without losing sight of the rope. Cal, I said, stay where you are. Do not move toward the fence. I'm not. Can you see the road from where you are? No. Can you see me? A pause. Barely. Good. The engine cut off. No doors slammed. No voices. Just the tick of metal cooling. That was deliberate. Evan, Mara said. Her tone shifted now from managerial to personal. You do not go out there, I swallowed. I'm not planning to, but I was calculating distances in my head, from the shed to the fence, from the fence to Larkspur Road, from Larkspur to the main entrance gate. The cameras were down. The office was a 5-minute fast walk away. If I left Cal alone and someone was out there, I'd be abandoning him. If I stayed, I was exposed. The bell rang again. Not from the shed. From behind us. Metal on metal, clear, intentional. Cal made a strangled sound. That's closer to me. Where? I demanded. Section 15, near the crypt. There was no bell in Section 15, but there was a loose chain on the old maintenance gate that sometimes hit the post if someone shook it. Cal, I said carefully, are you near the old gate? Yes. Do you see it? I see. His breath hitched. I see the chain moving. Wind didn't move that chain unless it was a storm. There was no storm. County's 8 minutes out, Mara said. Hold, 8 minutes, too long. Because now the problem wasn't just the bell. It was movement on two sides. Someone at the road. Someone near the inner gate. Or one person moving fast. Cal, I said, making a decision I didn't want to make. On 3, you move toward me. Slow, keep low, don't run. What? You're exposed out there. So are you. I've got the shed. You've got open ground. He didn't argue. That scared me more than if he had. 1, I said. The chain clanged again. 2, a crunch of gravel near the fence line. 3, I snapped my flashlight back on. The beam cut across the grass. catching the broken angel statue, and behind it, a shape shifting. Cal burst from the shadows, taller than I expected, dark hoodie, hands up like he was surrendering. And behind him, 20 yards back, something moved between the stones. Not shadow, not wind, a person. Flashlight beam hit a reflective strip, maybe on a jacket sleeve. Then it was gone. Go, I shouted. Cal stumbled toward me, nearly tripping over a low marker. The bell above us exploded into sound again, 3 rapid rings, frantic, like someone yanking the rope with both hands. The rope whipped so hard it slapped against the shed wall. I grabbed Cal by the sleeve and hauled him into the narrow gap between the shed and the fence, forcing us both into the cramped, spider-thick space I'd avoided earlier. Stay down, I hissed. Footsteps, not running, walking, measured, gravel crunching slow, closer than I liked. Mara's voice crackled through the radio, louder now because I'd bumped the volume. Evan, respond. I didn't, because the footsteps had stopped, right outside the shed. And then, slowly, deliberately, the rope above us creaked, not swinging, just tightening, as if someone on the other side was wrapping it around their hand. The rope above us creaked again, not swinging, not ringing, just the slow twist of fibers being tightened around something, someone's hand, maybe. I could hear my own breathing, too loud in the cramped gap between the shed and the fence. The space was barely wide enough for both of us. The chain link pressed into my shoulder blades. The shed's wooden siding scraped my forearm when I shifted. Cal was crouched beside me, knees pulled in, his hoodie snagged on a nail head sticking out of the shed. He didn't notice. His eyes were wide and glassy in the sliver of light bleeding under the eaves. Footsteps again. Slow. Gravel crunching near the service road side of the shed. Then silence. The rope gave one sharp tug. The bell didn't ring. Whoever was holding it was careful now. County's 5 minutes, Mara's voice cracked through my radio, low but urgent. Evan, respond. I pressed the talk button once, barely. Holding, you need to disengage. Can't, a pause. Then, softer. You're not a cop. I didn't answer that, because the footsteps had moved, around the back of the shed, toward the narrow gap. I could hear fabric brushing wood. Cal's hand clamped onto my sleeve. Hard. I lifted the pepper spray, thumb on the trigger, heart pounding so violently I felt it in my ears. The footsteps stopped just outside the gap. I could see a shadow shift across the fence mesh, a shape blocking what little light there was from the road. Then, a metallic clatter exploded from the other side of the shed. Cal flinched. I almost sprayed blindly, but the sound wasn't near the gap. It was on the service road side, something heavy hitting the gravel. Footsteps sprinted away, not toward us, away. I counted 3 beats, 4, nothing. I flicked my flashlight on and lunged out of the gap before I could second guess it. Evan, Mara barked. Too late. I rounded the corner of the shed, beams slicing across the ground. A metal rake lay in the gravel, one tine bent. It must have been propped against the wall, knocked over deliberately. 10 yards out, near the edge of the service road, I caught movement, a figure cutting across the grass toward section 15. Stop, I shouted. The figure didn't. They moved low, fast, weaving between headstones like they knew the layout. I took off after them. Evan, do not pursue. Mara's voice was sharp now, almost cracking. I ignored her. Cal stumbled out from the gap behind me. Wait, stay back, I snapped over my shoulder. The geography of this place lived in my muscles by now. The shed sat near the north edge of the property, service road looping behind it, before connecting to the main circular drive. Section 15 lay downhill, rows of mid-height stones arranged in clean grids. Beyond that, Section 16 dipped further, cedar tree marking the edge near the old maintenance gate and the fence line that bordered Larkspur Road. The figure was heading downhill, toward the gate, toward the road, toward that truck. I sprinted across the grass, nearly slipping on the wet ground. My boot clipped the edge of a flat marker, and I stumbled hard, catching myself on my palm. Gravel embedded into my skin. Pain flared sharp and real. I didn't stop. The flashlight beam bounced wildly, catching glimpses of a sleeve, a flash of reflective material, then nothing. "County's 3 minutes," Mara said. "Evan, give me a description." "Dark clothing," I panted. "Medium build," moving towards Section 15. I heard Cal behind me, breath ragged. "Go back," I shouted again. "I'm not leaving you," he shot back, voice breaking. We crested the slight slope into Section 15. The inner maintenance gate stood ahead, old iron bars, chain looped through and padlocked. The chain was swinging gently. No wind, just the after effect of someone touching it. The bell rang again. From the shed, loud, clear, 3 sharp peals. I stopped dead. That was impossible. We were at least 60 yards from the shed now. "Did you hear that?" Cal whispered. Yes, there was only one bell, unless I swung the flashlight around, scanning the crypts near Section 15. There was an old above-ground family vault on the left side, brick facade cracked along one corner. The beam caught something metallic leaning against the brick, a length of pipe, and beside it, on the ground, a small brass handbell, cheap, shiny, new. I stared at it. "Okay," I said slowly, pieces clicking into place. "Okay," they'd been mimicking it, using the pipe to strike the gate chain, using a handbell to echo the shed bell from different parts of the property, creating confusion, making it seem like multiple locations. Cal stepped closer. "So there's more than one person, or one person moving fast and planning ahead," I said. "Why?" "To herd," I answered before I could stop myself. "Herd who?" "You." His face drained. The engine on Larkspur Road roared to life. Close now. Not idling, revving. I turned toward the fence line, just in time to see headlights flare through the slats between trees. The truck's beams cut across Section 16, blinding and harsh. "They're trying to flush us toward the road," I said. "Or toward the gate," Cal said, eyes darting to the chained iron. Because the gate was the only obvious barrier, the only choke point. The headlights shifted, sweeping left to right. Then something else moved in the beam. For one horrifying second, I thought it was another person, standing upright among the stones, arms raised. Cal sucked in a sharp breath. The figure swayed. Then I recognized the shape. The broken angel statue in Section 16. The light had hit it just right, turning stone into silhouette. "Statue," I said quickly. "It's just the statue." Cal let out a shaky exhale, misdirection, fear doing its work. But the truck was real. The engine revved again. Tires crunched on gravel. "Are they coming through the fence?" Cal asked. "They can't," I said automatically. Even as I said it, metal groaned. The old maintenance gate, the one we were standing in front of. The chain wasn't just swinging anymore. It was taut, pulled from the other side. Someone had threaded something through it. A hook, a cable. "Back up," I said, too late. The chain snapped tight with a violent jerk. The iron bars rattled, one hinge shrieking as it strained. "Evan," Mara shouted over the radio. "What's happening?" "They're trying to pull the gate," I said, backing away. The truck engine roared again. The chain stretched, links grinding. Then, with a metallic crack, one of the old rusted bolts on the gate hinge sheared off. The gate sagged outward an inch. Cal swore. "They're going to rip it open," he said. "County's 2 minutes," Mara yelled. 2 minutes was an eternity. The chain jerked again. Another bolt screamed. This wasn't random vandalism. This was force. "Get away from the gate," I shouted. We scrambled sideways, ducking behind the crypt. The flashlight beam jittered across the brick facade as I crouched. The gate groaned under strain. Then the truck engine cut off. Sudden silence. The chain went slack. I risked a look around the corner of the crypt. The gate hung crooked now, one hinge bent, chain still looped but visibly stressed. No truck in sight. Headlights off. Road dark again. "Where do they go?" Cal whispered. I didn't answer, because from the opposite direction uphill, toward the shed, I heard footsteps again. Not running, walking, measured. They decircled back. "They want us moving," I said under my breath. "Why?" Cal asked again, voice thin. "Because if we're moving, we're not thinking." The footsteps stopped near the cedar tree in section 16. My heart hammered. That was where his brother was buried. "Don't," Cal breathed. The flashlight beam caught a figure near the cedar. They weren't hiding now. They stood in plain sight. Medium height, dark jacket, hood up, in one hand the bell rope, detached. They'd cut it. The frayed end trailed from their fist. They must have sliced it while we chased them downhill, which meant while I was running, they were doubling back. The figure lifted the rope slightly, then dropped it. It fell onto Lucas's grave marker. Cal made a sound I'd never heard from a grown man before. Not anger, not fear, grief, twisted sharp. "I'm going," he said, rising before I could grab him. "Cal, don't." He bolted toward the cedar tree. "Cal," I shouted. The figure near the grave didn't run. They stepped backward, just out of reach, leading him deeper into section 16. I chased after Cal, lungs burning now, legs heavy from the earlier sprint and the fall. Halfway down the slope, my boots slid on wet grass. I hit the ground hard. My injured palm scraped again, skin tearing. The flashlight flew from my hand, beam spinning wildly across stones and trunks before landing face-down in the grass. Darkness swallowed us. "Evan," Mara's voice was distant, frantic through static. I pushed up, breath ragged, pain flaring up my arm. Somewhere ahead, Cal was shouting, "You think this is funny? You think this is?" His voice cut off abruptly. Not like he'd finished speaking. Like it had been muffled. My heart slammed. "Cal," I yelled, no answer. I scrambled forward blindly, hands out, catching the edge of a headstone with my shin and biting back a yell. Then a car door slammed, close on the property, not on the road, inside the cemetery. I froze. There was only one vehicle allowed inside at night. Mine. And I hadn't left it near section 16. It was parked by the office on the far side of the loop. Another door slammed. Engine turned over. Headlights burst to life behind me, blinding white, cutting through trees and stones. Not from Larkspur Road. From inside the grounds. From the main loop. They'd gotten in, through the damaged gate, or my stomach dropped, through the front entrance. If they'd come through the main gate while I was distracted, retreat wasn't an option anymore. Because the vehicle was between us and the office, between us and the only locked building with working landline access, between us and safety. And somewhere in the dark ahead, near the cedar tree, Cal wasn't answering. Headlights poured through the trees like a hard white liquid, turning every headstone into a sharp-edged shape. I dropped flat behind a low marker, the wet grass soaking straight through my jeans. My injured palm screamed when it hit the ground again, gravel grinding into raw skin. I pressed it against my thigh, trying to keep it from shaking. The engine idled on the loop road, close, maybe 50 yards uphill from where I'd fallen. The beams swept slowly side to side, searching. They weren't panicking. They weren't rushing. They were hunting. Evan, Mara's voice crackled in my radio, half garbled by static. Evan, I'm on with County. They're at the main gate. So the car was inside. That meant the main gate wasn't locked or it had been opened, either by someone with a key or by someone who'd been here before, or by me. My stomach flipped with a sick, hot realization. Earlier, when I went out on rounds, I'd hit the gate switch and watched it slide shut like it always did. If the sensor had been glitching, if the cameras were frozen, if the system was lagging, there was a chance the gate hadn't latched all the way. There was a chance it was just mostly closed, enough to look right in the dark. My flaw right there. The need to assume I had things under control. The habit of not double-checking because it felt humiliating. Evan, respond, Mara demanded. I pressed the radio button with my good hand. Vehicle on loop road. Inside grounds. Copy. There, Mara's voice broke up, then returned tighter. County says they can't get through. Gates blocked from inside. Blocked. A car could wedge itself at the entrance. You didn't need much, just a stubborn angle and a locked steering wheel. The headlights swept again. A beam landed on the cedar tree down in section 16, turning its dead branches into black claws. Cal. I pushed up into a crouch, moving low between stones. I tried to listen for him, anything. A cough, footsteps, a voice. Nothing. Just the engine and the wet hush of the cemetery. My flashlight was somewhere face down in the grass. Useless. The only light I had was the intruder's, which meant if I moved at the wrong time, I'd silhouette myself like a target in a shooting range. I slid my phone out with my good hand. The screen brightness felt like a flare. I turned it down until it was a faint glow, then texted Mara with shaking fingers. Evan, Cal missing near Cedar, section 16. Intruder has car inside. I'm on foot. No light, no reply yet. The beams moved again, slower, then stopped. A door opened. I heard it, clear car door hinge creak, then the soft thud. Gravel crunching under shoes. Footsteps walked off the loop road and onto the grass. Toward section 16. Toward the cedar. Toward Cal. I didn't think. I moved. I went downhill, fast, but controlled, body low, using stones as cover. The grass tugged at my boots. My lungs burned. Every breath tasted like cold metal. I stopped behind a tall granite marker and peeked around. A figure was walking between graves, using the beams behind him like backlighting. Hood up, dark jacket, medium build, hands down by his sides. In one hand, something dangled, thin, rope-like, the cut bell rope. He was walking toward Lucas's grave like he owned the place. My pepper spray canister sat heavy on my belt. I pulled it free. My thumb found the trigger. I waited until he was close enough that I could hit his face. He stopped. Not at the grave, 10 feet short, and he spoke loud enough to carry. Cal, my chest tightened. That wasn't a whisper. That wasn't a threat muttered under breath. It was a name called like someone calling a dog. Silence. Then, from the dark near the cedar, stop, Cal's voice. Strained, breathing hard. Alive. Relief hit me so hard my knees almost buckled. The figure chuckled once. Not a laugh. more like a sound of irritation. "Come on," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." Cal's answer was a sharp, bitter sound. "You cut the rope and dropped it on his grave." "Symbolic," the figure said lightly. "Gets your attention. A human voice. A human choice. No ghost, no curse, just cruelty." I edged around the marker, moving closer, pepper spray raised. The figure's head turned slightly, like he sensed movement. "Who's that?" he called, not looking at me, still facing the cedar. Cal didn't answer. The figure's shoulders rose and fell. He exhaled. "I know you've got security here," he said. "Evan, right." My blood turned to ice. He knew my name. That meant this wasn't random. That meant he'd been here before. Watching, learning routines. "Back away from him," I said, voice steady only because my body didn't know how to do anything else. The figure turned slowly. The headlights behind him lit the front of his jacket and threw his face into shadow under the hood. He wasn't carrying a weapon I could see, just the rope, and something else clipped to his waistband that could have been a flashlight or a tool. "You're making this complicated," he said. His voice was calm, almost conversational, like we were negotiating a refund at a store. "I'm not negotiating," I said. "Police are at the gate." He tilted his head. "I know." "How?" He lifted his free hand and wiggled his fingers like obvious. "Because I blocked it." My stomach sank. Cal stepped out from behind the cedar, and I finally saw him. He was pale, eyes wild, hoodie streaked with mud. One sleeve was torn at the elbow. He held his arm close to his ribs like it hurt. "Evan," he said, voice tight. He took my phone. "Did he hurt you?" I asked. Cal hesitated. He shoved me. I fell. He swallowed. He said he just wanted to talk. The figure spread his hands slightly. "See, why are you here?" I asked. He shrugged. "Why are you?" "I work here." "And he doesn't," the figure said, nodding at Cal. "He's trespassing." Cal's face flushed. "My brother is buried here." "Your brother owed money," the figure said, voice still casual. Cal flinched like he'd been slapped. I felt my mind reach for the simplest explanation. Debt, drugs, someone angry. Someone who thought Cal knew where something was: cash, pills, a stash. "You're here to collect," I said. The figure's mouth curved in something like a smile. "I'm here to get what's mine." "From him?" I asked. "His brother's dead." "He's family," the figure said, as if that settled everything. "Families clean up messes." Cal's voice broke. "I don't know anything." "That's what you said last time," the figure replied. Last time. So Cal had been approached before. Maybe at home. Maybe online. Maybe followed. My grip tightened on the pepper spray until my thumb hurt. "Back away," I said again. "Now," the figure sighed dramatically. "If you spray me, I'm going to hurt you." I didn't answer. I took one step forward. Figure moved too fast. Not toward me. Toward Cal. He lunged, grabbing Cal's sleeve, yanking him sideways. Cal stumbled, yelped, tried to wrench free. I sprayed. A bright stream hit the figure's face and hood. He recoiled instantly with a guttural sound, hands flying up to his eyes. He staggered backward, coughing and swearing. Cal bolted straight toward me, then tripped over the bell rope on the ground, going down hard on his knees. The figure, half blind, swung his arm wildly and caught Cal's shoulder. Fingers dug in. "Get off him," I shouted. I grabbed the figure's wrist with my good hand and yanked. He twisted, surprisingly strong, and slammed his shoulder into my chest. Air whooshed out of me. My back hit a stone marker edge, and pain shot through my ribs. I tasted bile. The figure's hand shot down to his waistband. Not a gun. A folding knife. He snapped it open with one hand like he'd done it 1,000 times. My stomach dropped. He didn't stab. Not yet. He held it low, close to his thigh, hidden from Cal's line of sight. He stepped in, slashing at the bell rope on the ground in a quick, sharp motion, cutting it into shorter lengths. Then he grabbed one of the pieces. I realized what he was doing a second too late. He looped the rope around Cal's wrist, yanking it tight like a crude restraint, then pulled Cal toward the cedar. Cal screamed and thrashed. Evan. I surged forward, but my injured palm slipped on wet fabric, and the figure used my momentum against me. He shoved me hard. I went down again, shoulder and hip slamming into mud. The knife flashed in the headlights, not toward my throat, toward my hand. A warning slash across my fingers if I grabbed again. I froze for half a beat, brain screaming, "Don't lose your hand." That half beat cost me. The figure dragged Cal behind the cedar, out of the direct beams. The moment they disappeared into shadow, the world got darker, quieter, more dangerous. I pushed up, lungs rasping, and forced myself to stand despite the pain in my ribs. "Cal," I shouted, a muffled grunt. Then a strangled help. I ran around the cedar and found them in the worst possible place. The ground dipped behind the tree into a narrow drainage swale, one of those shallow ditches that carried water downhill during heavy rain. Tonight it held a thin sheen of mud and leaves. The slope into it was slick. Cal was half in the ditch, scrambling, the rope around his wrist tangled. The figure was above him, one hand gripping the rope like a leash, the other holding the knife. "Stop moving," the figure hissed. "Stop or you'll," Cal kicked wildly, and his heel slid out. He dropped fully into the ditch with a wet slap. The figure's foot slipped too. For a split second, both of them were off balance. That was the opening. I lunged, not at the knife hand, but at the figure's legs. I tackled him low, driving my shoulder into his thighs. We went down together, sliding on wet grass into the ditch. Pain exploded in my ribs when I hit. My injured palm screamed. My head rang. The knife clattered against stone. I reached for it, and my fingers closed on cold metal, slick with mud. I threw it away without thinking, flung it up and out of the ditch, into the grass somewhere. The figure swore and slammed an elbow into my face. Stars burst behind my eyes. Warmth flooded my nose. He tried to scramble up the slope. I grabbed his jacket from behind and yanked him back. Cal was crying now, not dramatically. Just those sharp, involuntary sounds people make when they're scared and in pain and trying not to lose it. "Get the rope off," I panted at Cal. "Get it off." "I can't," he choked. "It's tight. Use your teeth," I snapped, then hated myself for it because it sounded insane. But there wasn't time for gentleness. The figure twisted and grabbed my radio, ripping it off my belt with a sharp yank. He raised it like a weapon and brought it down on my shoulder. A dull, heavy impact. My arm went numb for a second. Then he hit again. My vision tunneled. Somewhere above, the car engine revved. The headlights shifted, sweeping over the ditch, pinning us in harsh light like insects on a white plate. He signaled the driver. Or the driver had been watching the whole time. I realized something terrifying and stupidly practical. Even if we got the guy in the ditch, there might be another person in that car. "Evan," Mara's voice screamed suddenly from nowhere. My phone, not the radio. My phone was still in my pocket, speaker picking up her call because I'd pocket dialed or she'd called back, and it answered. "Evan, County's coming in on foot," she shouted. "They're cutting the fence by the shed." "Evan, where are you?" The figure heard her too. His head snapped toward my pocket. He lunged for it. I clamped down on his wrist with both hands, pain flaring everywhere, and headbutted him with what strength I had left. Our foreheads cracked together. His grip loosened. Mine did too. We both reeled. Cal, still in the ditch, fumbled with the rope, teeth working at the knot, hands shaking. He gagged once, then kept going. The figure surged up the slope again. I went after him, grabbing his ankle. He kicked backward hard. His heel connected with my injured hand. Agony shot up my arm. I screamed despite myself and let go. He scrambled out of the ditch and ran toward the loop road, toward the car. Cal was still half tangled, but the rope had loosened enough that he could pull his wrist free. He crawled up beside me, coughing and sobbing. "Evan," he whispered, eyes huge. He's going to." The car's door slammed. Engine screamed. Tires spun on wet gravel. The vehicle shot forward, headlights bouncing, aiming down the loop road toward the main entrance, toward the blocked gate, to escape before the cops got in. But if the gate was blocked, he'd have to move it, or he'd have to ram it. Or a police siren whooped suddenly, very close now, not outside, but inside the cemetery, muffled by trees and stones. A flash of blue light strobed faintly through the branches near the shed. County had gotten in. The intruder's car swerved, brakes squealing, as he realized he wasn't alone anymore. He turned sharply off the loop road, cutting across the grass between sections, straight through the graves. Headstones blurred past, some low, some tall. The car clipped a marker with a dull crack, jolting. The driver didn't care. He was leaving a trail of damage and noise behind him, a human storm tearing through quiet. "Cal," I rasped, grabbing his sleeve. "We have to move. Now." My ribs felt like broken glass when I breathed. My nose was bleeding. My hand throbbed like it had its own heartbeat. Cal nodded, dazed, eyes tracking the car as it tore across the property. The car angled toward the damaged maintenance gate, the one whose bolts we'd weakened, the one near Larkspur Road. If he could punch through there, he'd be gone before County reached him. We limped after, not chasing, just trying to get line of sight, trying to give the cops direction. The car hit the gate at speed. Metal shrieked. The chain snapped with a sound like a gunshot. The gate buckled outward, collapsing partly into the ditch line, leaving jagged iron at a dangerous angle. The car lurched, bumper scraping, then cleared the opening and vanished into darkness beyond the fence. For a moment, everything went eerily still. Then my legs gave out. I dropped to my knees in the wet grass and couldn't get enough air. My ribs refused. My body shook like it was trying to shed itself. Cal dropped beside me, clutching his wrist, face streaked with mud and tears and something like shame. Blue lights flashed closer, sweeping over us. Footsteps pounded. A flashlight beam hit my face. "Ease," a voice shouted. Hands where I can see them, I lifted my good hands slowly. "Security," I croaked. "Evan, I work here." An officer rushed in, male voice, breathless. "Are you injured?" "Yes," I said, and it came out as a laugh that sounded wrong. "Yeah, I think so." Another officer knelt by Cal. "You okay?" Cal didn't answer. He stared toward the broken gate, eyes fixed like he could still see the car. Mara's voice arrived in my phone again, thin and frantic. Evan, talk to me." I pulled the phone out with shaking fingers. "I'm here," I said, voice cracking. "We're alive." The officer's radio barked with updates. Vehicle fled through the maintenance gate, heading toward Larkspur Road. Possible damage. Request units. They were chasing him now. but the cemetery around us felt permanently changed. Not haunted, just violated. In the distance, the maintenance shed bell rang once more. Not because someone pulled it, because the cut rope, still hanging in pieces, was caught on something. Swaying in the wake of all that motion, wind stirred by a passing car, disturbed air, a consequence. One final sound, accidental, almost pathetic. And it still made my stomach clench, because my body had learned it as a warning. The paramedic kept asking me to rate the pain from 1 to 10. I gave him a 5 because it felt like the kind of answer that would get me home faster. He didn't look convinced. We were parked crooked near the office building now, red and blue lights still painting the headstones in slow pulses. The night had that used-up smell it gets before dawn, damp and metallic, and faintly sweet from the cedar tree downhill. "Hand S going to need stitches," he said, peeling gravel out of my palm with steady, patient movements. "Maybe 4, maybe 6. "Okay, you hit your head," just clanged foreheads. He shone a penlight into my eyes anyway. I tried not to flinch. Across the parking lot, Cal sat on the back bumper of a squad car, blanket around his shoulders. He looked smaller somehow. The adrenaline had drained out of him and left something hollow behind. An officer was talking to him in low tones, not unkind, but firm, taking a statement. His wrist was raw where the rope had dug in. There were shallow abrasions along his knuckles and one cheek where he must have hit the ditch wall. I caught his eye once. He held my gaze for a second, then looked away. Mara arrived 20 minutes after the chase started. She pulled into the lot in her SUV, hair still pulled back in a loose clip, wearing leggings and a heavy coat over a t-shirt. She didn't look like a supervisor. She looked like someone who'd been yanked out of bed. She came straight to me. "You idiot," she said quietly. I waited for the anger. It didn't come. She crouched slightly to look at my hand. "You should have stayed in the office." "He would have." I stopped. My ribs protested when I inhaled too sharply. "He would have taken him." Mara looked toward Cal, then back at me. Her jaw worked. "You're not law enforcement," she said again, softer now. "I know. You're not paid enough for this." That almost made me laugh. It came out more like a cough. The paramedic wrapped my hand and told me I'd need to go to the hospital for proper cleaning and sutures. I nodded like it was just another errand on a list. Officer approached us, mid-40s, stocky build, short gray hair. His badge said D. Morales. "You have an Mercer?" he asked. "Yeah, appreciate you stepping in," he said. "But next time, call it in and hang back." "Yes, sir." He looked over his shoulder toward the broken maintenance gate. Even from here, I could see the sag in the iron, one side hanging like a crooked jaw. Yellow tape fluttered in the breeze. They'd stirred up moving in and out. "We got partial plate off the vehicle," Morales continued. "Driver clipped a marker in section 15. Left some paint and plastic behind. We'll run it." "Was there anyone else?" I asked. "In the vehicle. Doesn't look like it," he said. "One driver, no passenger." So either the person on foot and the driver were the same, or the driver had doubled back before we saw him. Morales must have read something on my face. "We think it was one guy," he added. "He parked outside first, came in on foot, used the truck later." That tracked. It was what I'd thought. "What about the main gate?" Mara asked. Morales glanced toward it, blocked from inside with his own vehicle before he ditched it. "Hard to say. We're checking the mechanism. Might have been left unsecured." Mara didn't look at me when he said that. She didn't need to. I felt the weight of it anyway. Procedural failure. Not malicious. Not dramatic. just a missed double check. They found the knife in the grass near the ditch, found the brass handbell and the length of pipe near the crypt, bagged them carefully. Flashbulbs popped in small bursts of white as they photographed the damaged headstones. Lucas's grave marker had a dark scuff across the edge where the rope had dragged. Someone took a picture of that too. By the time they loaded me into the ambulance for the short ride to the hospital, the sky was beginning to lighten faintly at the horizon. Not sunrise yet, just that gray shift that makes everything look like it's been washed too many times. Cal rode in a separate cruiser to give his statement formally. He wasn't arrested. Morales told him flatly that trespassing at night was a bad idea and that he was lucky this hadn't gone worse. Cal nodded and said, "Yes, sir," like a teenager caught sneaking out. At the hospital, fluorescent lights replaced headlights. The ER smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee. A nurse cleaned my hand properly this time, numbed it, stitched it. 6 stitches. The doctor pressed along my ribs and ordered an X-ray. "Hairline fracture," she said later, tapping the screen. "Nothing displaced. It'll hurt for a while." "How long is a while?" I asked. "Couple of weeks. Maybe more if you don't rest." I didn't say anything to that. They gave me a sling for my arm to discourage movement, sent me home with instructions and a small bottle of painkillers I knew I wouldn't take unless it got unbearable. Mara drove me back to my apartment just after sunrise. The world outside looked aggressively normal. Commuters at stoplights, a woman jogging with earbuds in, a kid waiting for a school bus with a backpack too big for him. "You're off the schedule," Mara said as she parked. "At least a week." You're off," she repeated. We sat there for a moment in the quiet car. "Corporate S going to ask questions," she said, "about the gate, about why the cameras were down. I'll answer them." "I know you will," she hesitated. "Evan," she said finally, "he knew your name." "Yeah, you tell anyone your routine, post anything. Same coffee stop every night." I shook my head slowly. "No, but I thought about it later, lying on my couch with ice on my ribs. About the nights I'd stood by the shed smoking occasionally, even though I'd quit years ago, just to have something to do with my hands. About how predictable my patrol path was. About how the bell rope had hung at the same height, same place, every night. Routines are visible if someone watches long enough. The police called 2 days later. They'd found the truck abandoned in a strip mall parking lot 15 miles away. Stolen plates, wiped interior, no usable prints. The partial plate they'd gotten matched nothing helpful. They had a description from Cal, now white male, late 20s to mid-30s, medium build, brown eyes, faint scar near the jawline. Vague enough to fit half the county. They asked if I'd be willing to look at a photo lineup when they had one. I said yes. Cal texted me that afternoon. "Cal, they let me go. I'm sorry about everything." I stared at the message for a long time. "Evan, you didn't ring the bell." He replied a few minutes later. "Cal, no. He's been messaging me for weeks from fake accounts. Said Lucas owed him. I blocked them. I thought it would stop." "Evan, why didn't you tell the police?" 3 dots, then gone, then back. "Cal, I didn't think he'd show up at a cemetery." Neither had I. I went back to work 12 days later. The maintenance gate had been replaced temporarily with a reinforced chain and a heavy-duty padlock. The permanent repair was still pending. The shed bell had been taken down entirely. Corporate's decision. Liability, Mara had said. They patched the siding where the rope had been cut. The wood looked lighter there, like a scar. The cameras had been upgraded, or at least rebooted properly. On my first night back, I walked my usual route slower than before. My ribs ached with every deep breath. My hand pulled tight around the stitches that were just beginning to dissolve. Section 15 looked almost normal again. They'd reset the marker the car had clipped. Lucas's grave had been cleaned. The scuff mark was still faintly visible if you knew where to look. I stood there a minute. The cedar tree's dead branch creaked softly in a breeze. No bells, no engines, just the ordinary sounds of a cemetery at night. Insects, distant traffic, the soft tick of cooling metal from my own parked security vehicle. I told myself that what happened was over. The intruder had fled. Police had a report. The physical damage was fixed, but something had shifted. I checked the main gate twice before starting rounds, then a third time, made sure the latch caught, watched it, listened for the click. I kept my radio volume higher now. When I passed the shed, I still looked up instinctively to where the bell had hung. My body expected it. Sometimes in the wind, the loose gutter along the shed roof rattled faintly. The first time it did that after I came back, I froze mid-step, heart hammering. Then I let out a breath and told myself what it was. Metal expanding, cooling, nothing more. Near the end of my shift that first night back, around 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. My hand went cold. Let it ring twice before answering. Hello, silence. Just faint ambient noise. Could have been wind, could have been a bad connection. Hello, I said again. The line stayed open for a few more seconds, then clicked dead. No voice, no words. I stared at the dark screen in my hand, thumb hovering over the redial option. It could have been a wrong number, a pocket dial, a glitch. I didn't redial. Instead, I turned slowly, scanning the grounds. Headstones stood in neat rows under the dim security lights. The cedar tree was a darker shape against the sky. Everything looked as it should. No truck, no movement, no bell. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and kept walking. But I listened harder after that, for rope on wood, for metal on metal, for footsteps where there shouldn't be any. And even when the night stayed quiet, the quiet never felt empty again. That's tonight's story. If it gives you chills, make sure to like, subscribe to Mia Horror Stories, and tap the bell so you never miss what's coming next. And if you're still brave enough, there are more dark tales waiting for you right here on the channel. Go watch another, if you dare.